Eagles power, our fans. We are back live with another episode. Even though you guys are not listening live, I still always say live, and I'm not sure why. One day I will probably fix that. Until then, you guys are going to continue to hear me say we are live. So I am your host, always, Kylor Neal. With me is absolutely no one. There's no co-host today. Rusty is doing some amazing things cross country with his work. There's no coaches interviews, there's no player interviews, but we got a lot of things to recap this week. So, unfortunately, you get me, only me. So, I apologize. You can turn off this podcast right now if you want, or you can listen and maybe you'll hear some cool things and maybe you won't hate my conversation I'm going to have to myself. I mean, all of this is really winging it. I have a couple topics and we are going to see how this turns out. But man, it's been a busy week. Work's been busy. Life's been busy. I haven't really even had dinner yet. I started work at 6 a.m. today, got back. It's 9:30. Haven't been able to eat. Haven't been able to do anything. So I at least grabbed a Truly. That's all we had in the fridge. So I will be drinking this beautiful mango Truly. If you guys can see it, it's better than nothing. It's at least some type of water. And I've had a long day. I deserve it. But now let's dive into some of the cool things that have happened this week. Hold on, let me take a sip. Okay. Ooh, not a big fan. Oh, well. Okay. So, guys, big week of athletics. Guess what? We have football. We have basketball. Before we talk about all that, we also had some news that popped forward. The Pictor group, if you guys aren't aware, they were the ones that were hired by the Eastern Washington University to really audit our whole athletics department. So they were brought in to do a giant study, see where the support lies, see if Eastern Washington is fit to be a Division I athletic program, see if the football department is ready to still be D1. Is there an opportunity for Eastern Washington to drop down to D2, NAIA, D3? I mean, their job was to find out exactly what the cost is to run this program. They were trying to figure out what type of support, where's the best fit. And overall, I don't think it was that bad. I mean, you see some of the neighboring, news sites that are waiting just for clickbaity stuff. So of course they have, Pictor Group talks about Eastern Washington dropping down athletics. Guess what? That was their job. Their job was to audit and try and find multiple segments, give the athletics department, give the university options on what to do to move forward. They were doing a good job. They did not just say, Eastern Washington, they need to drop down to D2. They need to drop down to D3. No, they gave multiple options and positive and negatives for why Eastern Washington should stay where they are, why they should or should not drop down. And overall, I think the report came back pretty positive. At least that's how I'm taking it. It seems like there was multiple, I don't even know what you want to call it, but multiple graphs, I guess. They were just multiple graphs from responses. They sent out basically a questionnaire to tons of different groups. So it was like to the current students, it was to alumni, it was to the faculty, it was to neighboring businesses, it was to just people in Cheney. I mean, there were basically questionnaires sent out to everyone. And, there were some positive responses based off of the questionnaires because they were trying to figure out what type of support Eastern Washington has. So, I mean, it seemed like, one of the questions I remember was Eastern Washington, or did the athletic department have a big reason why maybe you decided to go to Eastern Washington? I believe it was like 66% said, no, athletics wasn't that important in my decision-making to go to Eastern Washington. But 33% said D1, and it was specifically D1. D1 athletics was a huge decision why I went to Eastern Washington. So that, I mean, how I'm taking it is, okay, for one, sure, it does cost a little bit to, run a Division I program. But the overwhelming question is, if we did not have a Division I program, how many of that 33%, which said it was a huge influence on why I decided to come to Eastern Washington, how many of that 33%? That's a lot of money too. I mean, if you're thinking about tuition, I don't even know how much tuition is now at Eastern Washington. I know it's more than when I went there, But if you're thinking about 33% of, the amount of current students that were in this questionnaire, and I think it wasn't, every single current student. It was just the ones that submitted feedback, which was still a pretty good number. I think it was like 1,300, 1,600. So out of that, 33% were saying Eastern Washington, being a Division I school, made a huge, huge reason why they decided to go to Eastern Washington. So if you cancel out Division I athletics, how many of that 33% maybe decide to go elsewhere? I mean, that's a realistic conversation that we can have. And I think the Pictor group did a great job really showcasing, what did the business owners think? A lot of the business owners, it was overwhelming support that if you dropped Eastern Washington athletics, local businesses would suffer. Everything would suffer. The school overall would suffer. It's like Lynn Hickey said back in the day, while this whole ordeal started, the athletics department is like the porch to the university. It's not the whole aspect of the university, but it's like that welcome porch. It's what puts us on TV. It's what, makes local news hear about us a lot of the times. It's what makes kids get excited, young kids get excited about maybe potentially going to be an Eastern Washington Eagle one day. I mean, these are all the realities of having an athletics department, especially a D1 athletics department. Now, do I wish, maybe we were one day in a better conference and in the very top league like the FBS? Of course, but that's not going to happen. So I'm going to be happy with where we're at. We are an FCS program. We are a Division I program. We get to, if we win the basketball tournament, we get to go to March Madness. How awesome is that? Do you think anyone cares what the Division II basketball tournament looks like? I can't even name how many teams are in the Division II basketball tournament. I mean, if Eastern Washington decides to drop down, well, a lot of sports going to go out the window. I can promise you that. You're still going to lose money. The Pictor report did a really good job analyzing. Guess what? If you drop down, sure, you will not have to spend as much money, but you're also not going to make as much money. But overall, let's look at some of the conclusions that the Pictor report came up with. So for one, here's what's so crazy to me. The whole 2019 budget for the institution, all of their expenses, their expenses was $230 million. That's the whole university. You want to know how much the athletic department costs to operate? $9,786,000. The athletic department was only 4% of all of Eastern Washington's budget, and yet some of the faculty think we spend way too much damn money on football, way too much damn money on athletics in general. I think that is ridiculous. If anything, let's up this. Let's, I don't care about what Eastern Washington is doing outside of athletics, but I know I'm not speaking for everyone. Eastern Washington is an awesome university. It's brought a lot of people a lot of good things, and we should care what else is going on in Eastern Washington besides athletics. But if you ask me what is bringing me to continue to root for Eastern Washington, what's continuing to make me continue to root for or just even talk about Eastern Washington, the only thing's athletics. I want to watch Eastern Washington football win. I want to watch Eastern basketball get to a March Madness and, perform some type of upset. That's the goal. That's what I want to watch. That's all I care about. So for me, I'm biased. I'm an athletic nut. Actually, that's a lie. I'm not an athletic guy. I love athletics in general. So let me just, repeat that. I'm not saying I'm an athletic nut. Nah, I'm married. I got fat. I like to drink, but I like watching athletics. I like watching football. I like watching basketball. I'll watch hockey. Shoot, if there's nothing on, I'll watch track. I don't care. Anything beats nothing. So overall, I do think the Pictor report kind of set some good expectations. So here was our conclusion. So for one, I'm just going to read some of the things. So Eastern Washington University, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So for one, this is all their conclusion on analyzing different aspects. If it's going to be FCS, if it's going to be D2, if it's going to be D3, whatever. But the decision to remain at the Division I FCS level will require basically a reinvestment of institutional revenues. Guess what? We got room. 4% was athletics. That's it. 4% was athletics. We have room if we really want to push it to maybe 5%. Come on, let's give you athletics a little extra money. 5%. I'm happy with that. But basically, it says, okay, it will have to reinvest in some institutional revenues. It will also require targeted efforts and accountability to really increase financial support. And that's basically from donors, from corporate partners. We have to do a better job donating as fans. If you want Eastern Washington football to stick around, if you want the basketball team to continue to be Division I, what are you doing? Are you donating? Guess what? Maybe all you can afford is $1 a day. Maybe you drink one less coffee from Starbucks every single day. You put that back to the program that you love. It's that easy. Maybe I need to stop drinking one more disgusting Truly. If that's the case, I will. But we all need to do a better job. If you want to continue to keep Eastern Washington as a Division I athletics department, guess what? We need to do a better job. For how good all of our sports are. I mean, the basketball team is kicking ass. The football team has been dominating all decade. How is our funding so dog crap? Why? It's because of fans like you and I. We're not pulling up our part. And I'm sorry to have this tough conversation, but that's why I said you and I. For a long time, I wasn't holding up my end of the bargain. But even while I was laid off during COVID for, a few months, I still was able to donate what I could afford. I had a decreased funding, but I was still donating. But if you realistically want Eastern Washington to continue to excel, guess what? We need to do a better job as fans. We really need to donate. We need to show the whole faculty, show the whole school that we care, that we want Eastern Washington to be a Division I team. That's on us. But then, okay, so then they talk about also if Eastern Washington were to decide to reclassify its athletics program into a lower NCAA division. So they're talking D2, D3. It said there would be measurable cost savings. Cost savings, right? You wouldn't have to pay as much. But then it says, but also significant loss of revenue. Why? No one cares about Division II. For a long time, no one cared about the FCS, but we're making a name for themselves. I mean, did you see how supportive Spokane was when Eastern Washington went to the national championship in 2018? I don't remember that support in 2010 when we were going for the first time. We need to capitalize. People do care about a good football program. They care about a good basketball program. Sure, Gonzaga kind of runs Spokane, but guess what? If Eastern Washington basketball continues to improve, if we are beating, Washington State, which we should have this year, but we only played 6 players and they played a whole healthy roster. Guess what? We start beating these teams. We keep Shantae Leggins. We're going to make a name for ourselves. We are going to have a splash. It wasn't that long ago when the WCUC was absolute trash. There's no reason why the Big Sky can't do the same thing with a little bit of success. No reason. But okay, then it goes, we need to do a better job finding corporate partners. We do. I mean, I don't know. I mean, okay. I don't want to put my foot in my mouth. I don't know the job our corporate sponsor team or whatever you want to call them is doing. They could be doing a phenomenal job. So I don't want to put my foot in my mouth and try and speak about things I don't know. But I would think there could be some better local sponsors that maybe we can get a hold of. But who knows? I'm not going to try and say I know what's going on with that. Maybe we've been reaching out to every single person. Maybe we haven't had success, or maybe we've had success and we just haven't reported it. But basically, it also said, so let's see, there's going to be a significant decline in revenue, a huge decline in the visibility of the athletics program, campus, and community pride. They're saying all of that could be diminished. Campus life, community pride. If you do not have an athletic department that is Division I, no one cares. There is not a lot of pride when you're walking to Central Washington or Western Washington. They're like, yeah, we like school. I got a good degree. But there's not like, hell yeah, I went to Central Washington. I went to Western Washington. But when Eastern Washington football's winning, when Eastern Washington's basketball's winning, what do? You go, yeah, man, I went to Eastern Washington. I went to the school that has a red turf. I went to the school that was a national champion. That creates a little more sense of pride. I mean, it is what it is. But also it said then, they had to give options on everything. So it said also the Pictor Group's review has shown it is highly unusual for a Division I institution to reclassify athletics program from D1 to D2 or D3. They don't seem like they are supporting a reclassification. Then it also said because one of the things they had to look at was discontinuing football. So it says discontinuing sponsorship of football, especially at the Division I level, would result in significant reduction of both the expense and revenue of the athletic budget. Eliminating football would also have a considerable impact on campus life, the university, community, and donor relations. You're not getting donors. You drop football, your donorship is going down the roof. Given the high profile of football, public awareness to the university and the position of an EU in the state would likely be hugely impacted. Should the university wish to pursue reclassification of athletic programs or eliminate the football program, an economic impact and studying cost benefit should be employed. Either decision should be, should actually take into the consideration of the trickle-down effect. It's basically saying eliminate football. So many other things are going to start happening. People would stop. Maybe, there's a percentage of people would stop going to Eastern Washington. Revenue would be down in terms of tuition. You would have community, local businesses that would, suffer deeply. The campus life would be boring. There would be no pride. The trickle-down effect could be real. It could be a huge factor. But then it also says, the trickle-down effect, also you're going to have a really tough time to recruit, enroll students, have any type of alumni relations and donor support. It's going to be really hard for getting, local businesses to invest in your university because now they don't see a return on investment. They're not going to advertise, hey, go drink Coors Light for the chess club. It's just not there. I don't mean to throw the chess club out of, I don't mean to, talk down about the chess club. I don't even know if there's one, but that Queen's Gambit show was pretty cool. So if we have one, I think it could be booming here pretty soon. That Queen's Gambit show kind of exploded chess, but okay. Back on it. Overall, guys, I don't think the Pictor Group review was as bad as some of the publications are making it out to be. It seems like they were really going after clickbaity things. I thought it was pretty positive. I thought it sent a pretty clear message that, guys, it seems like we have overwhelming support to stay Division I, and there's way more positives to stay Division I than there is a few negatives. And all we need to do is try and support athletics a little more. That's all we need to do with the school, with the fans, with the community. All of us need to do a better job supporting athletics. That's it. If we all do a better job, the school, the fans, the community, we have no problem excelling Eastern Washington. No problem keeping Eastern Washington as a D1 football program. No problem having Eastern Washington basketball team stay at the Division I level. That's all it takes. We need to do a better job. We need to support teams. We need to do it all. Okay? That's all I'm going to ask. I know it seems like, maybe I was venting or ranting, but it is what it is, man. We need to do a better job. So now we are going to move on to, let's see here. What do we want to talk about? We are going to talk about, Eastern Washington basketball versus Idaho State. Oh, it's a tough one. It's a tough one because, guys, Rusty is way better at this than me. So for one, I apologize. Just because Rusty does such a better job than me analyzing the basketball game. All I can really say is I watched the game. Let me actually bring up some of the live stats because it was kind of unfortunate. Eastern Washington lost a very close game to Idaho State, which, overall, Idaho State in the Big Sky Podcast Power Rankings was number 5. And I know it got a little bit of flack, but overall, they're 14-9. It's not like they are doing a horrible job. They're actually a pretty solid team. Sorry, there's going to be drink breaks in here. Normally, there's Rusty in here as well, so I have drink breaks, but he's not here. But let's see. That is not the right score. Whoa. Why did they bring up one when Jesse Hunt was still playing? Let me put up the other story. But Eastern Washington lost to Idaho State last night. Unfortunately, in a very, very close game. Come on, ESPN, do better. But we lost 68-63. It was pretty tough. Here's the thing about the game. The refs let us play a very physical game in terms of they weren't calling a lot of fouls, and I was a fan of that. I thought they let the boys play. And overall, Idaho State was just physical. They were able to really do a lot of things to us that I was not anticipating. But overall, I mean, it was a good, close game. Some of the positives we saw, let's give a shout out to Michael Meadows. Anytime that lane didn't even look open, he was driving it flawlessly. And then he'd have a beautiful little shot. He was able to arc it a little bit, but I thought Michael Meadows played a fantastic game. He's actually a really, really good kid that we're going to continue to watch as, the next few seasons happen. Tanner Groves, again, he's a monster. Try and get him in the paint. Who's stopping him? No one. Jacob Groves, some of the plays he was involved in. There was a really sweet play where it's going to be hard to even analyze because this all happened last night, but he actually passed it. He was trying to look, and I think he was trying to think, did he send it to Kim Aiken? But he wasn't even looking at Kim Aiken, and he just flung the ball behind his back for an easy bucket by Kim Aiken, driving to the hoop. But overall, man, Eastern Washington looked good for parts. And then at the very end of the game, we just kind of got out physical. Idaho State was taking full advantage. Braden Parker, their center, there was times where, he was out bullying Tanner Groves. And that was kind of a thing where I didn't think would happen. But Braden Parker, the center for Idaho State, he looked really good. You have their guard forward, number 20. I mean, that kid is a beast. He scored 17 points. He looked really good. He was fast. He was all over the place. Idaho State has a little bit of they're a squad that we tried to put them away. They just weren't willing to be put away. It was 37-31 in the first half. And then in the second half, I mean, momentum shifted. You can tell in the second half, Idaho State wanted it a little more, and they were willing to really, really play physical. And like I said, they were starting to run faster than us. They were being a little more physical than us. Overall, you can just tell Idaho State wanted to ruin Eastern Washington's chance of clinching any type of Big Sky championship. They wanted to stop anything from happening. So here's the deal about Eastern Washington basketball, because it's already 23 minutes. I thought I was only going to do a 30-minute podcast. I spent a little bit too much time on the Pictor group and not enough about the actual games that went on. But Eastern Washington, points off turnovers, we had 17 to their 8. We were actually doing really well off points off of turnovers. We were making sure Idaho State was turning over the ball, and we were capitalizing. We were grabbing the ball. We were driving down the hoop. Second chance points is even 8-8. Nothing too impressive. Here's the deal, though. Fast break points. Idaho State was able to, outdo us 10-4, which it doesn't seem like that much. But they had the better opportunity with fast break points. They were able to. One thing that really impressed me before we move on, Idaho State's ability to get back on defense after maybe a turnover, or maybe after Eastern Washington, because Eastern Washington is a fast team where we like to go up and down the court. But Idaho State's ability to jump back on defense right away when I thought we had an easy chance to get a bucket. If it was going to be a 3, if it was going to be driving to the hoop on a 3-versus-2, I thought we had some really good opportunities. But then all of a sudden you'd see Idaho State come back. They would be there when everyone else was on the other side of the court 2 seconds ago. All of a sudden they're rushing. They're there. They're fast. So I mean, overall, I think we look like the more talented team. There were some mistakes. We got out physicaled at the very end. And Idaho State is a good squad, but we need to take care of business. We play them wow, it's not even Saturday. We play them Friday. That's insane. I keep forgetting about these 2-day offs, and that's about it. So our keys to the game, man, we really have to control the inside. We need to shoot a little bit more from the arc. We need to let Kim Akim Jr. and Tanner Groves do what Akim Jr. and Tanner Groves does. We need to let them control. And, I think we got to win on this next game. I don't think Idaho State can pull off the upset twice, which means in order for us to have a share at the title, I believe Southern Utah needs to lose one and Weber State needs to lose one as well. One of their next two. If each of them lose one, I think we at least share the title. If Weber State and Southern Utah if Weber State loses both, I think we win the title outright, as long as Southern Utah loses one. But the Big Sky's crazy. And the Big Sky tournament, who cares if you're the 1 seed or 2 seed? There's really no true benefit, in my opinion, besides one of them potentially gets to play Idaho if Idaho makes it out of that first round alive. I mean, that's really the only benefit. But if Idaho doesn't make it out alive, is really the 1 or 2 seed much different? No, not until we hopefully one day adopt some type of WAC format where maybe the 1 and 2 seed don't even have to play till the semifinals. So you have the 2 bottom teams playing each other, then they play the second tier worst teams and they go on and so forth. But until we have something like that, it's awesome to win the regular season. I know Eastern Washington wants to do that. They're going to fight to win this regular season. Hopefully we get a little bit of luck from Weber State losing. But overall, if we're looking at seeds in the Big Sky tourney, doesn't matter too much to me. But Eastern Washington, I think we bounce back. I think we do win. Now we're going to look at basically the football game. We already did a preview. Not a preview. We did a recap of the Idaho Eastern Washington game, so I don't need to really talk about that. But let's talk a little bit about our opponent and who we are going to be playing. So we're going to be playing Northern Arizona. They are coming up to Roos Field, which there's not a lot of cold games this fall or this spring. Wow. This spring. I don't even know what time. It's just so crazy that football's played in the spring. But NAU, they're coming up to Roos. They actually had some success in Roos in 2015 when freshman, finally when he was only 19 years old instead of the 48-year-old Case Cookus last year, he kind of took apart Eastern Washington with his gold cleats. He decided I was going to show Eastern Washington who's business. So that's who we're playing this week. But let's give a little bit of a breakdown on how NAU looked last week. NAU, they faced Southern Utah. Now this is Southern Utah's last year in the Big Sky. They're trying to leave the Big Sky with a mark, and unfortunately, the first game, they did not get it done. NAU wins 34-33 in a classic Big Sky thriller. I mean, it was one of those times. Southern Utah's up 33-28. NAU, they drive it down the field on the last play. 53 seconds left. That's all they have. They drive it 8 plays, 81 yards. The clock is down to 0. And Keandre Wooty. I hope I didn't butcher that. But Keandre Wooty, he had an amazing little play, 2-yard pass to Coleman Owens. Touchdown. NAU wins 34-33. Again, classic Big Sky fashion shootout. It was crazy, especially when you look at the ESPN win probability. Southern Utah was at 93% with 53 seconds left. I mean, if you were betting on it right there, you would have hoped you bet on NAU because, oh my gosh, that last drive was insane. Hats off to NAU. Let's look at some of their players and some of their performances from this game. Southern Utah, for one, they controlled time of possession, 40 minutes to 19. NAU had a really tough time keeping the ball and holding on to it. Total yards, NAU, they had 343 total yards, 18 first downs, 0 turnovers. Here's the deal. None of these teams are great defensive teams. So again, awesome game to watch. It was a fun little Big Sky Classic shootout, but I mean, none of these teams have that amazing of a defense. So NAU really struggled rushing the ball. They only rushed 42 yards. They did pass 301. But again, defensively, I mean, what else can you do? They only rushed 1.8 yards per rush. That's not going to get it done with Eastern Washington's front seven because Idaho has a very good running game, and Eastern Washington's defensive line kind of shut down Idaho. I think we'll have a decent amount of time shutting down NAU in terms of their rushing game. But let's look at some of the players to watch out for. So we got basically, let's go here and look at some of their game cast. So again, I already talked about Wu-Ti. He's their quarterback. He went 17 for 25, 252 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. He looked pretty good in their first game. I'm not going to lie. But again, take it with a grain of salt. It is Southern Utah's defense. We will see how he looks against us at Roos. But he looked like a good quarterback. The wide receivers we need to look out for. The good thing is Brandon Porter's not around. That eliminated one good threat, but I mean, you look at NAU's wide receiving core, they got pretty talented kids with Hendricks Johnson. He didn't really perform that well last week, but Stacy, I'm not even going to try and pronounce his last name. Actually, yes, I will. But Chuck Woozmizi, I have no clue. He had 4 catches, 75 yards, almost 20 yards per catch, a touchdown. They have some athletic wide receivers. They should be able to win some of our DB versus wide receiver battles. They do have very athletic wide receivers. I'm just glad Brandon Porter is not playing because he is an absolute beast of a wide receiver. But, I mean, if you're looking at this matchup, overall, I think they're going to have a really tough time defending Eastern Washington's offense. I know we didn't look spectacular against Idaho, but if you remember what NAU was last year, probably the worst defensive team I have ever seen in the Big Sky. And we have had some horrible defensive teams in the Big Sky. But in terms of a defense, I mean, Mason Petrino looked like a god versus them. Eastern Washington put up 66 versus them. They just don't have a good defense, and it didn't look like anything changed over this year. I mean, Southern Utah, I don't think, has an extremely amazing offense, and Southern Utah's brand new quarterback, Justin Miller, he had 5 touchdowns, 1 interception. Pretty much 30 for 40, throwing 75%, 5 touchdowns. Just think what Eric Berrier should be able to do. Now, I believe Aaron Best is COVID-free, so that's the good news, or at least he should be able to be back in the stands and coaching, or not the stands, but the field and coaching this game. But, I mean, we're going to see how well Eastern Washington looks this year versus Southern Utah. I mean, not versus Southern Utah, but NAU. If I am a fan of Eastern Washington, this is definitely a game that does not make me nervous. And maybe I'm still just being a little cocky or something like that. But this is just a team that does not make me too nervous, even though, maybe we did not play as good as we should have. Here's the deal. I think Eastern Washington bounced back. I think they're pretty pissed off on, that field goal call. I think they're pissed off that just Idaho out-physicaled us and outplayed us in the whole second half as well. I think Eastern Washington is going to be angry. I don't know if Andrew Boston is going to be back. I don't know if Jack Sendelbach is going to be back. They did not play this last week at Idaho. I don't have an update for you guys, unfortunately. But I believe Eastern Washington is going to be just fine. It seems like our strengths are NAU's weaknesses, and NAU's strengths are our strengths. I do think on paper this is a pretty big mismatch. I would not be shocked to see Eastern Washington win by 30, 28, 35. If I think the spread's 14 last time I saw or something like that, which I think that's fair. But again, I could be making up numbers too. Maybe the spread's only 7. I have no clue. I'm making up stuff now. So I apologize if, you look it up right away and you're like, what is this idiot talking about? I just thought I saw 14 somewhere, but now that I'm thinking about it, that could be a little much. But I would not be surprised if Eastern Washington wins a 48-21 type of game. Potentially more, 55-21. I don't know. We're going to see. We are experienced. We do have a lot of talent coming back. Hopefully we can clean up some of the drops from our wide receivers this last week. Just some mental mistakes. Hopefully we can get a little more physical. I think defensively we played very physical versus Idaho. I don't think we did too bad. Offensively, I think Idaho kind of out-physicaled us to where their defense was just matching up with us well. They stopped us from doing what we typically do. And then, of course, we had some errors that hopefully we can clean up over this game. But it should be a fun one. The game is at 3:05 p.m. my time. So that's probably 1 o'clock your guys' time. So, yeah, score prediction for the game, 48-24. Man, seems aggressive. But I have faith in Eastern Washington. I think Eric Berrier is going to completely light up NAU's defense, who I've been clowning for the last year. So if we lose, I expect all of the hate. I expect I expect KC from the NAU and Big Sky podcast to thrash us. I expect Idaho fans, Montana fans, JSU fans to all thrash us. And, it is what it is, but I think we're going to bounce back from this game. And I think our offense is going to absolutely light them up. And I think our defense looks really improved already just in that one game. Now, I know Idaho doesn't have a fantastic offense, but I think defensively we looked pretty damn good at game one. So I'm excited, guys. I think Eastern Washington wins big, and, we have to win out the rest of the season if we want a shot at the playoffs. We are playing playoff football this week, and I think if anyone plays playoff football like Eastern Washington does, we have a good chance to win this game. Every single game from now on, it's a playoff game. We have to win out if we want a shot at the actual playoffs. So we need to come up with 5 wins in a row just to be a bubble team. And we're going to see what type of Eastern Washington team is really out there. I'm excited. Yeah, we'll see what happens. I'm expecting a win, though. It is what it is. I mean, that's kind of what I'm expecting. So Eric Berrier, give him hell. Defensively, all you guys, pretty impressed with how you played. Continue to give NAU hell. They do have a pretty athletic offense, so just be ready, be on your toes. They will be able to sling the ball every now and then, better than Idaho. So we need to make sure we are aggressive. We need to make sure we, get in their face, get in Wood T's face. But overall, I think it is a mismatch on paper, and I do think Eastern Washington comes out with a pretty big win. Now, all we got left are closing statements. Here's the deal, guys. We need your support. When we tried to make a switch from Anchor to Podbeam, it kind of messed up a lot of our Apple reviews. Would you please give us a review if you like what you're hearing on Apple Podcasts? It just helps. So if you give us a positive review, if you share, you can find this podcast anywhere you really listen to podcasts, with Google, with Spotify, with Apple, Anchor, Podbeam. I mean, those are the 3 major ones are Spotify, Apple, and Google. You can find us on any one of those major publications. Also, it's exciting, man. I'll be doing more editing soon. It's been crazy with work, and I still got to learn this thing. But we are live on YouTube. We're going to be pushing all of this content on YouTube. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel, Eagles Power Hour. I think it'll be fun, especially because, I think we'll do some live shows every now and then too, like legit live ones, not Kylor live ones. And, we can have interactions with the listeners who are actually listening to this podcast. But you can find me at Kylor EPH. You can find Rusty and give him crap at Rusty EPH. Please give us a like. Please give us a share. Please give us a follow on anywhere you listen to the podcast. But with all that said, go Eags. Boom.